those are kind of my thoughts for it. But, I also kind of wanted to share a quick story, if I could, about working at Red Rocks. And one of the better times and more memorable moments, something I will never forget the rest of my life. And, it kind of came at a weird time for me, because I'd only been working there for 2 months. 2.5 months. I'd only been out in Colorado for 2.5 months. I didn't know anybody, and like I said, I was working at Red Rocks part-time as a camera operator, working the shows, and so I had to get a second job at the golf course, working course maintenance at a Fossil Trace in Golden, which is not far from here, in Golden, Colorado, and which is a great golf course. I have nothing bad to say about the course or the people there or anything like that. But it was just obviously not my crowd. It was a lot older people working there, and I wasn't making any friends and meeting any people, and just kind of keeping to myself and working there in the mornings and from 5 to 1:30, and coming home, and then working at Red Rocks sometimes at night, every other night pretty much. And I just wasn't really meeting anybody, and I was kind of getting, I was down at points, obviously, because you're like, I thought it'd be easier to make friends, and, it was easier back home, obviously, when you know people and you're getting introduced to people, and, that's how it's easy to make friends that way. But when you're in a new place, you're like, where am I at? I don't, you're just kind of discovering new things and putting yourself out of your comfort zone, which is important, obviously. And so I was 2 months on the job at Red Rocks, and I was just working one of these shows. I think it was NACO and Medicine for the People in Trevor Hall. And I think it was a weekend show. It had to have been. And it was kind of like I was just in grind it mode where I'm just, just doing a show. It's just another show for me. And I think I started the night, there's like 4 camera positions at Red Rocks, for those that know. And I was on, there's like 2 in the front near the stage, and 2 in what they call like the not like the pit area, but where like the sound engineers are, the audio boards are, the light crew, all that. And there's 2 camera positions there too, and we also have like a control room in the back where like the directors are and all that, and the shader it's another position. And so I was on one of the cameras there, and it's also like a VIP section, which is kind of like right in front of where like the audio mixers and the audio engineers are and the light crew is. There's like a little VIP section, like 8 rows or so. And next to the VIP section, there's like 2 camera positions, and I was on one of those positions to start. And or I was on, I believe I was actually on front of the stage camera position to start. And then for the second opener, I believe it was Trevor Hall, and I was one of the camera positions near like the VIP section. And I was just, obviously in the zone, going already in my shift, and I believe it was at this point where I just had gotten to the camera, because I usually, between sets, there's usually like 30 minutes for like a changeover between acts where like the crew comes on, they switch the band's equipment, and during this time I switch camera positions because we usually rotate with the crew. And I was going to my different camera position at this point. I was already like a couple minutes had passed, and there was like a little stool right next to my camera, and so I just was chilling on my stool, and I just saw like a kind of like a group of people walk in, like towards like the VIP section, I kind of knew that the set was starting soon, that the next band set was starting soon, Trevor Hall's, and I was kind of like, I just saw like the crowd kind of come in. I was like, oh, what's happening? And then I saw this guy in the gray sweatshirt with a hat, and obviously instantly I recognized him. And it was Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. And I'm from Vermont, okay? You don't just see Aaron Rodgers every day, okay? You don't see anybody like that any day. So I instantly recognized him after, obviously you haven't watched him for years on TV, playing football, obviously for the Packers, dominating the NFL. And, I was kind of like, holy shit. I was kind of like, I jumped, I was like super reactive to it. I was like, I couldn't believe it, and all of a sudden I saw Danica Patrick, who was kind of right behind him, and then, it kind of hit me. I was like, that's right, they're a couple, Danica and Aaron. I was like, that's right, Aaron Rodgers and Danica Patrick. My mind, it was mind-blowing for me. And I just kind of was like, I was kind of like nervous myself because they're from me to, 5 feet, not even 5 feet away. And they just sat down, right where the seats would be. It's not actual like seating like this, it's just like kind of like benches, like rows of benches. If you've been to Red Rocks, like you obviously know. So I was just kind of like nervous for like the first minute or so, and then all of a sudden like there was like a little kid, and I kind of just stopped and was, I was gonna try to like maybe like sneak like a photo or something, share it on social media, and like a little kid kind of came up to me because I think he noticed too, and he was like, "Hey, can you try to get his autograph for me?" And I kind of was like, "No," I was like, "No, man, I don't think he wants to be bothered, and I'm not like the one to bother him, okay? Like I'm from Vermont. I don't know anything about. I wouldn't even know how to be like, "Hey, Aaron, can you?" So this isn't my time. This isn't my place, kid. And so like, obviously I'm just kind of stunned, but it kind of wears off just because the show starts minutes later, the Trevor Hall show. And I eventually met him, but one of the reasons or the moments that I knew that I could like go up and talk to him after a Trevor Hall set was there was like a moment during the show where like there was this phone that was kind of a few rows in front of the VIP section, and there was this guy FaceTiming his friend like a moment or like during like a song during the show, during the Trevor Hall set. And you could just tell like his friend was like bopping his head. He was kind of loving it. I just happened to notice it because it was right in front of me. I'm like facing, and it was kind of like right off to the side here. And I just kind of like zoomed in my camera and zoomed in on the screen. And the director eventually took the shot on the big screen so the whole crowd could see 10,000 people. It was a sold-out show. And I think once the crowd realized what was happening, they started going wild. They started like erupting like loving it. And I was starting laughing, and all of a sudden like the guy kind of noticed that he was on the screen, and he started like kind of jumping up and down like being like, "Oh, we're on the screen," like going wild. So I was I'm trying to keep up with him. Like the director takes this different camera, and I look down because Aaron's like 5 feet from me down here, just chilling. And he's like looking up, and he like gives me like a thumbs up, and he's like laughing like, hell yeah, And I was just like, I just kind of like the only thing I was just like, I think that's what I did. I can't remember what I did. It was something dumb, obviously. But I was just kind of like, like that's every day. I do this. This is what I do. This is what I do. Yeah, it was just. I was just kind of like, holy shit, Aaron Rodgers was like, just gave me like the thumbs up for doing that. And so, the Trevor Hall set, obviously, the show goes on. And so at the end of the set, like the whole crew or posse there, like Aaron kind of like gets up and goes off to the side. And I think he's like waiting for Danica and the rest of the squad to, catch up, and he's just kind of chilling off to the side, and the set's over, so I have nowhere to go. I have to go to my next camera position. And But I noticed Aaron's just by himself. He's just by himself. He's just standing there. I think he's just waiting for the rest of the crew to catch up. And so I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm not going to say hello to him or like just shake his hand or just anything. And it seems crazy now to think to be like, I'm shaking Aaron Rodgers' hand. But I had no choice. There was no option. There really was no option. I had to do it. And I just shook his hand. I was like, dude, I just went up to him, shook his hand. I was like, dude, you're a legend. Like, that's all I could think to say. I was just like, you're a legend. You're great. Blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, thanks, man. I was like, it's nice. It's great to meet you. And, like, I appreciate you giving me a thumbs up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, obviously did the fanboy thing, though. And I didn't know if it was right. It felt right because he kind of received me well. He was like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, can I get a picture with you, man? And then he was just like, no, I'm about to go to the bathroom and, maybe after. So I was like, okay, that's all right, sounds good to me, maybe, but sounds good to me. And so I just do my own thing, keep going, and, go to my next camera position. And I think I eventually saw, I think on my way to my next camera position, I went to like in the control room, and from there, yeah, I'm trying to remember if it was. Either way, I remember I ran into him at, like, in the tunnel at one point, because there's like the famous Red Rocks tunnel, or like outside of the tunnel, like at the bottom of it. Because those, if you've seen it before, it goes up like into where the control room is and where the, where like the audio engineers and all that is. And the VIP section, it leads to that. And so he was sort of at like the entrance to it. And the security there wouldn't let him up. I think he had like a drink or something. Like, he was like maybe like a beverage or something, adult beverage, some sort of thing. Excuse me. And he had some sort of drink, and they apparently wouldn't let him up. And there was only like a few of them. I think maybe, it was like maybe like 5 or 6 of them. And I think they each had drinks, and the security lady, she just wouldn't let him up. And I was like, do you know that's Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, just because he has a drink, you're not gonna let him up. And he's like, that kind of like, it was just kind of like another like bonding instance, I guess, where he was like, oh, I don't know what he thought, but I think it was just kind of like, I was like, man, I was trying to help him, I guess, in any way that I could, if I ever would, or if I ever, whatever the saying would be, if I ever could, I guess. I was trying to help him get up to the tunnel, I guess. I don't know why, just for having a drink, but either way. So from there, I don't think I saw him like the rest of the night until towards the end, where during like the Nacko and the Medicine for the People set, which was like the headliner, I was in the shader position, which is in the control room at Red Rocks, which is like next to the director. And it's just like you have like a couple little, like kind of like, it's like you're just balancing the brightness of the cameras. It's like you have a few like different like control pads and control knobs in front of you. And I think they're like Black Magics or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but you have like a couple different little switchers to work with to control like the brightness of the cameras. And I was on the switcher position, and so once the set ended, I was like, man, it's such a bummer that I didn't get a picture with Aaron, but maybe people will believe me, that I shook his hand and told him that he's a legend and all that. And to leave the VIP section, you obviously have to go back down through past the control room and then out down towards the, down the tunnel and then out towards wherever. towards like backstage area and all the rooms, the green rooms. And so, I was leaving the control room and I just saw the huge, crowd of people leaving the VIP area. And then all of a sudden I saw Danica. She was like the third or fourth person. And then she was like, the train's coming through or something like that. And I was just like, that was like the first time she had seen that I was saying hi to Aaron before when I was like telling him he's a legend earlier in the night and shaking his hand. But, that was like the first time I had talked to her. And I really got, the impression that she is intense. And it's crazy that was my impression. And her podcast is called Pretty Intense, I believe. But I thought that she was super cool and super nice, and yeah, that's really all she was just like, yeah, the train's coming through, and I was like, it's all good, I didn't really see Aaron, and then he was kind of like one of the last people in the whole crew to come through the doorway, and all of a sudden he came through and he was like, hey man, did we get that picture yet? And I was like, nah, but it's all good. And he was like, no, let's get a couple real quick. And I was kind of like, well, okay, I was like, all right, stunned. And I think I don't know if I asked Danica. I don't believe I did. But it was somebody in that crew, because she was kind of like, what's going on? A photo? And, I was like, hey, can you take the picture? And then Aaron was like, no, man, get a selfie. And I never take selfies. I don't know if I've ever taken a selfie before. And I was just I was like, oh, okay. And I just snapped a couple. And, kept going. Like, I was trying to, as quickly as possible. And it turned out tremendous. And then, from there, I was just like, once again, all the accolades. You're a legend, I will never forget the throw against Detroit, or the throw against Chicago in the playoffs, or to get to the play, all these, all these memorable moments. And the one against Detroit, or in the Cowboys in the playoffs, on these, just I won't either. But the impression that I got from him is that he is incredibly cool, incredibly nice, incredibly friendly. It's something that you would never expect from someone at his level. And it really taught me that he really is like a normal person, but he's a tremendous talent, obviously. So it kind of gave me hope that like the saying where it's like you're not supposed to meet your heroes, or people you look up to, but maybe you are. And even I've had some instances playing shows as WDY where I met people where they haven't always said not to say that you're supposed to say hello to your openers really, or anything like that, but they haven't even looked my way when they walked by my dressing room or anything like that, so to see that kind of I guess respect and kindness coming from someone from that walk of life was incredible. And it made my day, 'cause especially in the time that I was at too, just thinking about it, just being just not knowing anybody and not really having any new friends out here to talk to or hang with, or and even still, I still have trouble meeting friends and meeting new people. It's not easy. I don't think it's easy for anyone, and especially now, in this time. But